Hey, drawing family, what's going on out there? It's me, Calvin, on the Breaking Patterns YouTube channel, and we're continuing on with another drawing stream. And if you didn't watch part one, you definitely should watch part one. There's a link in the description that will link you to that video. It's about an hour long, but it's the basis for the drawing that we're working on today, which is a picture of some architecture. It's the Palace of Knossos in Knossos, Crete, which is an island in the Mediterranean. It's an ancient palace. So let's look at what we're drawing today. So the drawing that we started on is based off of this picture. Now remember, in the last video, we started it upside down. The camera was upside down. My apologies, but I double checked and it should be the right way up this time. Um, you should still be able to do the drawing. It is one of the, first couple streams that I've ever done, and so I'm still working the kinks out, but not to worry, we're still soldiering on. Hopefully we're going to do a couple different drawings of the Palace of Gnosis. And also, one thing to keep in mind throughout this drawing is our 2 points of perspective. That's right. And I'll show you the mock-up I made in the last video. There are 2 points on the horizon line. That red line is the horizon line, and it goes across. The closer objects get to the horizon line, the smaller they appear. That's right, in the distance, as things go over the horizon line, they become very tiny. And so it goes with drawing 3 dimensions as well. I also drew in those black lines. The lines of everything will go to those vanishing points. But then I also noted in the last live stream as well that not everything is as it seems, because I added in some blue lines to that photograph to show that, ah, not all of the things, even though they are parallel, those walls in particular, are parallel to the columns and that big giant column in the center. They're actually going to different vanishing points, and this may be due to, well, first of all, things not being exactly parallel, but this photograph was taken using a wide angle lens, which causes distortion. If you go back to the very first picture, you will even see that the roof, those 2 lines on the roof, are actually slightly curved, showing some of that distortion. But we're not going to worry about that too much in our drawing today. Let's just get to it. So, where did we leave off? We drew this big column in the middle, and new to the channel, a big bright light, and some changes to the white balance so that it doesn't look so yellow. And I hope that you can see that nice and clear. These are light lines so that they are easier to erase. Um, and we will hopefully work in some colored pencil into this, but probably not tonight. This is going to be a multi-part drawing. It's a little too complex, but hopefully we'll have everything blocked in by the end of this video. And then the next video, we will move on to doing colored pencils. So before we begin, let's just talk about what I'm using. So I'm using a box of different hardnesses and softnesses of graphite pencils. This is just Faber-Castell, very cheap set of pencils so that anyone can start doing this. If you just have a number 2 pencil, that will work as well. It does not matter. You'll just have to press lighter and harder for different effects as we go along. We won't probably need to be pressing too hard with these pencils though, because we're going to be going in with colored pencils, which are quite light. You don't usually press too hard with colored pencils as much as you might think. We're going to be very lightly coloring this in to get our final effect. Um, so for this though, I'm using a 2H pencil, which is pretty hard. So that means it's going to make light lines very easily. The other thing that I'm using is a business card as a straight edge. I'm also using just a folded piece of paper as a straight edge. Doesn't need to be a grid paper. That's just what I have. And then I'm using a kneaded eraser. You can use whatever eraser you want. This is what I have, and they work pretty well. You can use just a regular pencil eraser if you want. So, where did we leave off? Okay, so the big thing that we have to do next is block in those rays coming off of the top of that column. And guys, this is going to be a little tricky. It's going to be a little tricky. But to help us do that, I already have some lines marked out. If you remember in the very beginning of the last stream, the lines that we marked off that were the quarter marks. Remember, we divided the drawing in half and then we divided it into quarters. Those actually happen to kind of be where the ends of those big roof lines end. Not exactly. We're going to do some adjustments. Now, remember, also in the last video, I said drawing is a lot about, is a has a lot to do with measuring. And we divided things up so we could better measure where these perspective lines or these vanishing points go. And I'm just going to look at my source material and I'm going to kind of guesstimate where these lines end in comparison to this. Now, it is really close, it looks like, to being right there, but I think actually it's a little bit more over there. And we won't need this quarter line probably anymore either. We can adjust this as needed too if I get it totally wrong, and I'll show you why it will be easy to do that. Let's see, where does the other one end? Well, it definitely doesn't end at the quarter according to our photograph. If anything, too, when you look at the photograph, especially far away, like you're looking at in the corner there, um, this side actually goes longer than this side. Um, it's just a little bit longer, and it may be because the photographer is standing more on this side. It doesn't matter though. We can make our adjustments. So this is kind of what we did right here, but I'm actually going to go maybe a smidge longer. Yeah, that looks like there's going to be enough room for all those columns. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm seeing the part, but I'm also sensing the whole. I'm also looking at how far away that one is. Okay. Now, the only reason why I'm marking this out and I'm not caring so much about if it's correct at this point or not is because this is just where those lines end, I think. But I could draw them all the way down to this vanishing point if I wanted to and judge whether that was far enough or not. I can just keep building off of it. Yeah. Well, let's give this a whirl here. So I'm just going to take this and very lightly, again, like I said yesterday, it's very easy to do these straight edge lines way too dark. I'm just gonna erase them anyways, so why would I make them so light or so dark? Make them nice and light, easy to destroy. Okay, so the other thing that we should do too, since we really don't need them anymore, I just put them there to show you what was going on last time. We can erase these guidelines. They're not going to be in the drawing because if you look at the top there, those don't come off of there. But interestingly enough, there are some similar lines that we're going to draw here. They're just going to be above where this brick line is. You can see it faintly in the source material. There is a brick line there, but it actually goes up a little bit higher. That's right, we're going to be doing the highest line on the building. I made two little marks there so then I can take my straight edge and then I'm going to line it up with my vanishing point and the mark that I just made. And I'm just going to lightly make a line that goes just to here. And again, if this is wrong, I can always add more. No big deal. I'm going to do the same for this side too. Line it up with the vanishing point and come down to that line. And there you go. That's the top. Okay. Now, to make this easier on us, my instinct is to just keep going down. But I've learned over the years that if you have to do a bunch of these lines, do the last line, first line, then the last line, and then just kind of make sure when you're drawing all the rest of the lines in between in there that it's got enough space, it's even, and so on and so forth. So the last line, which is where the roof bottoms out, so to speak, and angles underneath, the part where you walk underneath, um, that line is actually right here. Double checking my source material to make sure I got it right. It's right here. And it's the same for the other side too. And what's interesting about this is because this sticks out farther, every layer underneath is a little bit below the layer that was above it. It was a little bit below the layer that was above it. And that's a great reason why we're also going to do the last one, the first one, and then the last one, so that we have enough room for all this, because we are just guesstimating. So now I've lined up that mark, the vanishing point. I'm going to go across. Line it up with the vanishing point and go across. Starting to look like something. I'm also looking at my source material once more, just kind of sizing everything out. Looks pretty good. So let's do the second from the top. So the second one from the top, pretty easy to figure out. That one actually is a little bit below this line. And you guessed it, I'm going to line it up with a vanishing point and send it on home. Going to do that for the other side now. And then also to just reiterate a point, see, it's much wider when it's closer to the viewer, and it gets much thinner when it goes to the vanishing point. Everything gets smaller. Everything gets smaller as it goes along. Okay, so the next one that we're going to do, and there's a bunch of other lines in there. We won't do them quite yet, just so we don't confuse you. The next line we're going to do looks like it's about halfway in between this piece right here on both sides. It's about halfway. And then we can send that one home to the vanishing point. Okay. And then the second line, which basically, by the way, too, so this top is corresponds to that top. So these like layers are going to be like that. You get what I mean? That line, incidentally, is right right here in the corner. And there's a very important reason why that is. Same for the other side. And this will help you draw these sort of complex shapes as you encounter them. Basically, there's going to be some shadow lines that we'll do underneath here. Those are going to curve underneath this and give us this chunkiness. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. I'll do it right here. So this top part, it looks flat right now. So if you draw another little tiny line underneath, and this is part of the drawing, and then line it up to your vanishing point, you've now given this some thickness. Because that is coming off of the side of the roof. And you can do the same thing for that side. Draw a little tiny mark right there. Line it up with the vanishing point and send it home. When we do the color pencil part, we'll color that in much darker. And I'm going to zoom it in real quick to see what I'm talking about. And so you can catch up a little bit. So do you see that thickness under there? That's just like in the drawing. And we're going to do the same thing right here. So right now this looks flat, but if you look at this, it's thick. It has a thickness. We're going to draw a line here to show that. I'll let you catch up for a second here. Okay. If you need to pause the video, you totally can during the live stream. That's no big deal. Okay. So this is where things can get a little hard. You need to have patience. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. I struggled with it a little bit too. So now let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see what's going on. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit just with some hand drawing without the guide. So it can get kind of lost in the mix with all these lines in here. But basically, the bottom of this is going to come off right here. It's sort of in that corner of the next layer. Let me get it really lined up nice. Measure twice, draw once, or erase it and draw again. Now I've added that thickness. See how much more dimensionality it has? If we zoom out, you can see it has much more structure to it. Gonna do the same thing for the other side now. Coming out of that corner. And that one's kind of interesting because it actually crossed. You see that? It crossed. That's not exactly what I was looking for. I don't think I need to erase that though. I think I just need to draw it again and just make sure it doesn't cross. Because when I do the colored pencil part, it's going to be dark there anyways, because it is a shadow. I'm not going to worry about that. If yours cross too, just draw it again so it's a little bit thicker and away we go. Okay, so now we need to draw the lines for these two layers. And that's one, two, three more lines that we have to draw. And then don't forget, we also have to draw the line for that one. So why don't we go ahead and draw the line for this, just so that we know that we're good on space. So according to my photograph, that line is right there. And that one's line is right there because it's lower. It just is. The reason why it's lower or appears to be lower is because it's farther back. Just a skosh, but enough that you actually can see a difference. And if you get these lines right, this drawing is going to look mwah. It's going to look so 3D. People are going to be like, whoa, I'm there. I cannot believe that I'm seeing this right now. You're creating the illusion of space, and this picture is going to have so much depth, right? It's not going to be flat. It's going to have dimensionality. Okay, so the tricky part is getting those last three lines right. And even my eyes kind of trick me with this one. So I'm looking at my source material. This line goes right here. It goes right below the last rung on the ladder. But remember, we still have to draw three more lines. This one's not looking too hot over here, though. I think I might redo that one. Just so that this isn't too. See, the problem kind of is though, is with this vanishing point that I drew over here. It's just like a giant black spot that I drew. So it's not like what I'm drawing towards is super accurate. The point of my pencil has thickness too, and that does affect it. What do you guys think of that? Looking pretty decent so far. Okay, so now I have to draw two more lines. See, now I'm getting a little mixed up. So I think one thing that we could do too, we can kind of shade this line in help us out. That represents the bottom of this one. Now this one represents the side of that one. And if we wanted to maybe help ourselves a little bit, we can line up little edge here and shade that in. Maybe we should have done this in the last stream, but that's okay. We can do it now. Could shade in the bottom of that one to help us figure this out, to make sure we got all the lines where we need it. So we did the bottom of that one, then we need a shaded line underneath it. Can do that here. Now we need a line to the top of the next layer, which starts there. Right? And then we need a little shaded line right there. And again, it doesn't matter if it's too dark, because when we do the colored pencil part, it's going to be darker. Okay, now let's do the same thing on this side. Let's shade that in. You don't have to do this if you feel like you got it. But I think for my own purposes, I'm going to fill it in. And then do a line that represents the bottom of the next layer. Shade it in. Do the next line. Represents the top of the last layer. And do one more line. We should be good now. Zoom out so you can kind of see. That's basically what you need to do. Okay, so moving on, we can fill in some other portions of this drawing. I think what I'll do right now, there's a couple different ways that we could go about this. So the next thing we could do, and this is interesting and fun. So we did draw where it ends right there. What you actually need to do now, though, is draw a line that's a little farther this way. Let me do that so you can see it. So here's the line, and then you can add a line right here, because that actually cuts in. But then these lines for the molding or the border, whatever you want to call it, those actually are farther out when they meet that other wall, which maybe we could fill in that wall, just block it in. Let's go back to our source material. Let's look at that real quick. So remember we had all these lines filled in, but then we have this other oddball shapes. Now I didn't draw blue lines in for the portion that's to the left, the building where those moldings meet. It doesn't really go to that same vanishing point that the right hand side goes to. So it actually goes like way off the page somewhere, kind of like that other one does on the top. And so those we're gonna have to estimate where those go. But there's those blue lines that go down now. Those we don't really have to guesstimate that much at all. They actually go a little bit to the right of the vanishing point that I have already set up. So let's draw that in. And if you don't want to put a vanishing point, don't put it in. I typically don't. I just run with it. Um, but we'll do it for the sake of continuity. Um, I'm going to use the business card 'cause it's smaller. And that building on the top is kind of like this. So it's a little bit to the side of that. Um, about halfway down, it meets here. Is that right? No, maybe a little bit more. Meets right there. And it goes way off the page. So I'm just going to kind of guesstimate here. That looks kind of like the angle it goes at. That works for me. And then this part goes very abruptly down towards that vanishing point. And I'm still not super happy with that. It kind of looks like it goes actually a little bit over. I'm just going to lightly put that one in. Let's see, now we know how to do the other side. I'm not overly concerned about like the real size of this or the correct angles, just because this is a distorted picture. You kind of do want some of that distortion probably in your final drawing. Okay, that one comes down. That one kind of angles like this. I mean, wouldn't it look cool if it looks like your drawing was shot with a wide angle lens? That would be pretty interesting. That one, not really sure what the angle of that one is because the surface is kind of uneven. You see that okay? I'll let you catch up. I'll erase some of the stuff that doesn't need to be there. If we really wanted to use the same vanishing point for these two lines, I'm going to redraw my vanishing point. See how much I was off? But like when you're in this sort of space, it's like just a micro amount. You could be off. It really like changes where those vanishing points could be. Okay, well that looks cool. Moving on. So, last time I drew this, I have drawn it one time before this, before we even started it. I actually kept these lines for the bottom part, which, again, if you look at the drawing source that I drew the lines on, they don't line up with those black lines. Do you see that? They actually go somewhere else. It's quite interesting. And I have really a hard time envisioning in my head the distortion causing that much. Um, just it just doesn't make sense to me. But the top would be a different one, and the bottom wouldn't be so much. But that is the case. So if you look on the left-hand side, though, the that bottom one does meet that same vanishing point. So why don't we draw that in next, just as sort of a guide? And I don't know. Let's draw in both for both sides. I think I might be a little wrong with the right-hand side, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So the other thing too is that line is a little bit farther in than this base. Do you see that? It's a little bit farther in. And now I'm going to take my big straight edge here and line up to that vanishing point. And then it ends where that wall is too, so I don't need to go all the way in. And there you go. You do see that in the picture, that little bit of distortion. That really does make quite a difference. Wow. Okay. So then the other one, remember I was going to guesstimate where it was. If you look, this vanishing point almost looks like the edge of this column. So maybe I'll put that column in. Just the first edge. Who knows if that's right or not? I don't really know. And then I'm going to put, because this vanishing point is that far away from here, maybe put it right there. Let's just look at it. Let's see how it looks. So that one looks like it's right. It's a little behind too. I don't know. I think this line is kind of influencing what I'm thinking. I think that's fine. It's best not to overthink these things. Okay, moving forward here. All right, I don't want to overcomplicate your thinking now. but this is a complicated drawing. Let's draw. It's weird because the source material, there's a column right here that blocks where this other line is. So maybe we'll draw where the columns go. Now there's bases, not really bases, but there's bases at the top of each one of these columns. And they're square and they jut out from the surface of this, of what they're underneath, what they're holding up. So one thing that we do know is the first column's edge of this like square base, I keep calling it. We'll call it a topper. How about that? Is right there. It's right below. It's right below this layer right here. That's the edge. And then the next part comes up into this layer's space. But how much? Keep in mind we have to leave room for two more columns over there. So we don't want to make it big and giant. We need to make sure that it's the right size. And then by the way, the edge of it is a straight up and down line. We want it to be foreshortened enough. That's big enough. And then foreshorten some more for the other edge. So I'm just going to put that there. Do you see where I'm going with that? If you don't draw yet. Wait a little bit. You'll see what I mean, I think. So now I'm going to do the last column, the topper on that column. So the last edge is kind of like right there. And then let's do the middle edge for the other one, the middle one. That one's the one that sticks out. Okay, now let's do the farthest edge for that one. That's for that one sticks out. And do that one for that one. And then that one's disappears. Disappears. So I kind of think that these need to be out a little bit farther. I hope you can see where I'm going with this. It's very finicky stuff. But the middle one is here, and it disappears behind that one. That one goes there. So this one might need to come out a little bit farther. If we get this right now, though, I promise you the rest of it will all be okay. Because we're laying the foundation for the length of all these and then the space that has to be in them. And I'm trying to make it look like the photograph so that in the end, you're getting all the distortion. There's even a little distortion in the columns themselves, but we'll get it like fairly close. Okay, so now that I've laid all that out, we're going to take our business card, straight edge. We're going to lay this all out. Now remember too, not to make you super anxious, but this also has to go to the vanishing point over on the other side. You draw in the lines for each one of these. Just double checking myself here. Okay. Now these ones technically go to our vanishing point over here, the big one over here. If you wanted to get really, really crazy accurate. Let's see how accurate I was. That was pretty close. Pretty close. You see what I'm doing now? All right. There you go. Hopefully that wasn't too stressful because now we're gonna have to do the other side. I'll give you a second to catch up. Maybe we'll put the stream on a little break. I'll leave the screen up so you can catch up. I'm gonna grab some water, but that's basically how you do it. I'll be right back. All right. So I climb back into my cockpit, so to speak. I was looking at my drawing and I was looking at my source material. Sometimes, and I do this a lot, especially when I'm painting something really big, is I step back and look. Close up looking is just as important as taking a huge step back. This side, this side is like way too long. If you look at the picture, it doesn't go back that far. So easily rectified. But that's what I was saying. It doesn't really matter as long as you have it going to the right spot. We can cut this piece. I'm almost thinking that this line here is like the end of that column that you see over on the side. And maybe like this is the beginning. But that means that this needs to be shaved down quite a bit. It is nearly as long as this one. It's just like a skosh longer. Maybe like right there. And I can use this piece of paper. Yeah. So let's just draw a line there. And, guys, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it if you didn't do it right. And, you know, cheers if you did it right. You're never going to get these things right the first time. We're laying out the foundation for a great colored pencil piece. So this is really just like sketching. I know that I got a little crazy using straight edges and stuff, and it seems so permanent, but it's really not. You're sketching out what's going to happen next. And that's the colored pencil part. Not next right now, but later. Okay, so one thing that we can do, if that column part stressed you out, let's take a break from that. Let's draw the part that goes across, right? Like this molding continues on a different angle that way. So let's draw that next. Now let's do the top line first. The top actually angles like up just a little, but it goes up. So I'm going to go from this point here and go across. Let's just go all the way. We can cut it down later. And then the bottom line doesn't angle nearly. It's indiscernible which way it goes. So basically, it's just going to go straight across. And that looks pretty accurate. Now let's do the middle line. Let's do the next line below it. And these ones don't need to have those pesky shadow lines that I was putting in before. This should be pretty easy to do. When we do the colored pencil part, we're just going to use dark lines underneath because there is a little bit of shadow from all that hard light that's hitting it. But that's for later. The colored pencil challenge. Um, the other thing too is the first live stream that I did for y'all was just pencils, regular graphite pencils. And this is a really solid foundation to do that too if you wanted. I'm not going to do both. As much as I love drawing this 2 times, I don't think I would like to draw it 3 times. Okay. And then we could maybe block in where this bottom piece angles down. I'll move this up so you can see it better. So that is actually starting to angle down in comparison to that, but not too much. Very subtle. Now remember too, I'm meeting where this line meets, even though it is like invisible line. And let's just do the little threshold that's there. Do a straight line there, threshold line right there. Cool. Let's just do another little line right there for that threshold, even though it is sort of rocky, choppy. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. There is another line in here, which I'm not going to erase these because you don't need that so much. Okay, so there is an interior angle line. I'm trying to think of a good way to show this for you guys, but I am eyeballing this 100%. But I do know it's going to be going to some imaginary vanishing point over there. That looks pretty good to me. I really do feel like this line now is going to be our column. So that one column over there. You know, when I was there too, I actually went to the Palace of Knossos. There were like these amazing like architectural features, but then there are some parts where it's like, what was this? Must have been like some like servants' quarters or something, because it's just like this weird little room off to the side with just like kind of some columns or whatever, like afterthought kind of stuff. And obviously, a lot of planning went into this, and it really showed the prowess of the people that lived there. There were just some other things where it's like, are you sure you wanted to do that? Was this fully planned out all the way? There was one part too where it was like this like descending spiral staircase with these columns. And there was intervention by the people that excavated it, and it was like, I don't think that's how that was. I mean, I'm not like an expert archaeologist or anything, but it just looked really weird and not like anything I'd ever seen. It looked historically inaccurate, is what I'm getting at. But that is just my layman's opinion. I would like to hear what somebody who's like an expert in this sort of thing thinks about that one section. I think I took a picture of it too. We're definitely not going to draw it in this class because it's funny. It looks downright funny. And these columns that they put in this like descending stairwell, Like I don't know what it was leading down to either. It was like, did you guys just kind of like find a pit and then like think that there's some deep like interior room or something, and it really was just like a well or something. Sorry, you guys, if I'm moving too fast, but it's just some of these parts here, like I don't think they need much explanation. You can kind of do with it as you will. One thing I did here is have this angled wall because when I look at the source material, it just doesn't look like it's going straight up and down. It just looks like this curved kind of like wall. And then the angles here are kind of funky. And I think that's just all lens distortion. That's where this distortion in a wide angle lens shot is going to be the most. It's on the sides, the top, the bottom, and the sides. I mean, watch a video about wide angle lenses. The most extreme wide angle lens, and don't quote me on it being a wide angle lens, it's a fisheye lens, which gets all of its distortion from its shape. Yeah, I don't like that. It's extremely circular. This is all eyeball, my friends. And don't worry if you don't get this right, because this is wacky over on this side. Give it a shot. If you don't think you can draw this part, don't draw this, because this doesn't necessarily need to be in here. It's just like this weird, choppy profile cutout too. I'm pretty sure a lot of this was intervention built on top of rubble. I'm probably gonna have like a hard time getting it on camera anyways, 'cause it's just off to the side. Okay, but yeah, we basically have like this interior part all filled in. Um, there's a wall that goes across. We could draw that in a little bit. It doesn't really matter though, because that area is going to get dark. And then there's going to be a column there as well. One thing that we could draw in going towards that vanishing point is this interior going to the vanishing point and this edge and making a line there. That's that interior wall. You could do it on the other side, but frankly, you're just really not going to see it. You could do it for your own sanity, I guess. It's kind of like, well, maybe I didn't really put that one in right. It's really more like, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really look right, so I'm just gonna leave it. Um, oh, well, that wasn't the vanishing point. Okay. No, I did do it to the right vanishing point. That is correct. It could just be like lower. It could be like this. It's up to you. I just don't think that looks like particularly that great. You could split the difference. I don't know, just thinking out loud here about how this could go. I mean, it's not like perfectly, this isn't a perfectly accurate drawing. Like, there's going to be some things that might not make sense in the end based off of what you're seeing in the picture. And that's okay. It's okay, guys. It's all right. We're not stressing about the drawing at all. So, draw the next one so it lines up with that one. You can draw it like this. Um, you do it like that. No, just guessing, really. Do what looks good for you. Like I said, this like interior part like doesn't really matter as much. Um, Really what matters when drawing that interior space is like these gold cross beams that are going to be right here. Um, and then the rest is all kind of like in shadow when we do the colored pencils. It's just it's not really going to make that much of a difference in the end. So, um, let's do the toppers for the columns on this side now. Now these ones are going to be a little bit trickier because we don't have that much of a frame of reference. I mean, right off the bat, though, this corner one's going to be pretty easy because the topper, the corner, is in the corner. And then this one is right here. And then the one that's inside disappears. Okay. The next one is guesting right there. It's an educated guess, folks. And this one is about right there. And I'm just going to look at my source material and make some adjustments. So I think I got the last ones right. I think these ones need to move over a bit because this one right here doesn't disappear. Doesn't. Actually, maybe go right there. Okay. I'm going to use my business card. Do the tops. Those two. That one's easy. That one's easy. These. Okay. This one. I'll put right there. And there you go. Well, those are the tops of the columns. All right. What should we do next? Okay. So let's do the bottoms of the columns next. Now, this is where things can get a little bit tricky because the bottoms of these are circular and they're not square, but you still need to do foreshortening. And there probably is some super secret way to like do some mathematical foreshortening and stuff, but I'm not privy to that knowledge, and it's probably going to be too complex for our purposes anyways. What I'm going to do though is make a super light line that really isn't like that big of a deal, but I made a super light line there. And then we're going to kind of pinpoint, if I look where that is, that's where the edge of the column is and where it goes to the bottom. I'm going to use my pencil as a guide. Just kind of make sure that these bottoms line up with this vanishing point so that they get smaller as they go along. And then I'm just going to kind of sketch in the bottoms of these columns, which, by the way, looks smaller in diameter than the top diameter or circumference on the top. They look like peg legs. So I'm looking at the distance between there and just little faint lines to go on the bottoms. Let's do the other side. So these kind of recede in, but then get closer to the outside as you go farther away. Very faint, fainter than all the other faints. And even that's a little too far out. Should be a little bit farther out. Okay. No worries. I'm not going to redraw the line guides. Let's just draw. Just put down the marks. Make the mistake. Correct it. Guys, Leonardo da Vinci made mistakes. Leonardo da Vinci made mistakes. There's medical drawings that he did where the insides of people, like he drew cadaver drawings and then guessed what was inside based off of cows that he drew. Like he drew weird tendons and stuff inside of human anatomical drawings that were not there. And he drew them with such confidence that they look like real or something. I don't know. But like they're not there. They x-rayed Leonardo da Vinci's painting of Lady with an Ermine, which is just like a woman holding a ferret like in her arm. They x-rayed that painting and found out that there's a really bad ferret painting underneath that looks ridiculous. Like he'd never seen a ferret before, which maybe there was a time where he had not seen one before. But I digress. He made mistakes. The greatest genius of our times, or the generation before us, or whatever you want to call it. You can make mistakes. It's how you learn. And he refined things. He painted over that ferret with a ferret that looks great. It may be the greatest painting of a ferret. But he had to draw, or he had to paint a bad one first. It's okay. Relax, take a breath, and draw. I'm not an expert. You're not an expert. No one is. This is a progression. We're learning. I haven't drawn this before a couple days ago. Now I'm just making these little coils on the top. I did kind of wonder if I am putting way too much detail in here for what will be colored pencil later, but we're just going to draw it. Now there's like these bottom little coils that go along the top. They're curved on the top. They're wider than the ones we put in, and then they curve in like this. You see that? We'll do a bigger one. So it's wider like that. It curves up on this side, comes down, curves up again. I'm just gingerly kind of sketching that in. I know it's wider because some of them disappear in the curvature of the other one. Although I don't think I'm really capturing that super correctly or super finely, but that's okay. We can just fill it in like that's the way it's supposed to be. What I'm more concerned about with getting right is these bigger shapes of the columns themselves. That adds way more accuracy or realism to the drawing than these little finer details because they're going to be so tiny when, I mean, they're so tiny right now, but they're going to be very like minute in the actual part where we color it in with colored pencils. Just trust me on that one. Okay, so these actually aren't straight up and down, they angle in. You see that? This is what I meant by they look like a peg leg. They angle in. The top is thicker than the bottom. And then we can fill in that a little bit more. There's like a coil that goes around the bottom. Again, I'm not sure if I really need to put this in here. And then there's a band of gold that goes around the bottom of each one. Or not gold, Brad, whatever. Not taking it too seriously, guys. We're not. It's more fun when you just have a good time, when you lay down marks. You're working on a lot of homework for school. I know I am. This is a great break. Enjoy yourself. Don't frustrate yourself. Cool. Yeah, let's do the other side now. We'll do the other side. We'll fill in the little beams. We'll put in the wall. Hey, we'll even put the little like whatchamacallits, barrier, string barrier, I don't know, velvet ropes, and then we'll call it a day, and we'll color this in on the next live stream. Hey, guess what? I rarely use colored pencils, but somebody gave me a whole bunch of colored pencils, and we're gonna do that for the next one. So you're gonna see me try and fail and learn, and you're gonna do it too if you get some colored pencils. Um, Actually, you know what'd be really good homework for you until the next live stream is to find some colored pencils. And you know what? That is the number one art supply, I'm gonna guess, that kind of goes unused. And I bet you if you ask someone you know, maybe it's like your coworker or your mom or your sister or your dad. I bet you they have like a Ziploc bag or a bucket filled with colored pencils that they're not going to ever use. And you should ask around. I bet you somebody will just give them to you. Colored pencils are expensive, let me tell you. Um, Crayola ones are pretty cheap, but they're not like the best quality ones out there. I know because that's what I've been using, and I haven't been getting super great results with them. But those other ones like Prismacolor and stuff, like boy, man, those are expensive. It's painful how expensive they are. They're like $1 per pencil, but they are very nice. I've used them in the past, and they are very nice. That one was a little crooked, so I made the adjustment before I drew the line. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's more like this. Yeah, let's do that. Like that. Yeah, this was a little bit off. See what I mean? Now I'm getting way off. That's okay. So get some cheap colored pencils. Or don't color it in. Do it all black and white. Watch me color it in while you do black and white. I'm going to do some other ones too. Some drawing tutorials with a wide array of materials. It's not just going to be drawing. We're going to use pastels, dry pastels. We're going to use paint. We're going to use colored charcoals. We're going to use gray toned paper. We're going to use charcoal pencils. I've done quite a bit of different materials over the years, so I want to pass that knowledge on to you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That way you'll be notified whenever a live stream goes up or I make a video, then you'll know for sure. And then you can come and draw with me and work on some stuff. It'll be fun. I absolutely love drawing. I could do this forever. I've done it my whole life. So, okay, so it's not the prettiest thing in the world, especially with the columns, but they are there. They are in the right spots. I feel happy about it. You're getting pretty close to being able to color this in. So, okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put in the beams that I told you about. And that is all based off of that vanishing point and this point right here. Is that too low? That feels too low. No, that's right. Cool. Keep going. Finish it up. Okay. Then there's like beams that represent the roof. Oh man, I loved the woodwork. As much as that interventions were controversial to me, it was like, oh, you really should have left all of this alone or like left it buried even. A lot of archaeological finds are left buried. They just scan it or lightly excavate it and then bury it again because it's not everything needs to be like a tourist attraction and then basically get ruined. But I really liked the woodwork. It was cool to see. I really thought that was nice. It looked so nice in like this like Tuscan arid kind of environment. It looked gold. It looked like it was gold. I loved it. And it very much was a tourist attraction. There were so many people there. You can watch my video of the tour of the Temple of Gnosis or the Palace of Gnosis on my YouTube channel. It was very hot that day. I have been living in Arizona though for the last few years, and it was just like as hot. Um, it wasn't the worst day in the world, but it was a hot one, and people were really feeling it. Other people were fine, probably because they're from Spain. Yeah, Spain is hot. I was also in Mallorca this summer, and it was as hot as it was in Arizona. Like I checked, it was actually the same exact temperature. Okay, we're gonna leave the poles thing, the little velvet rope things. So I don't know if that really necessarily even needs to be in there. I did do that in my original drawing, but I'm not sure if I was really into that or not. I'm getting tired. So let's just fill in this last little line, the wall that goes on the side, and try and get it on the screen for y'all. Yes, okay. All right. So the line itself, this is maybe one of the trickiest parts of this, so I'm not too worried if you don't want to put this in your drawing, don't put it in your drawing. So we still need to draw the bottom wall. Okay. And then, yeah, this gave me a lot of trouble last time, and it's going to again. So no worries if you don't like this. You're like, absolutely not. So I'm going to go about it a little bit different. So I'm actually going to draw where that line meets that wall. And then I'm going to kind of watch how much it angles off of that line. It kind of goes like that. And then that line, yeah, okay, I like it. So kind of what I did on this one. So this represents the two lines of that wall. And what I noticed was at this point, it's almost conjunct with that line. That's kind of how I knew how to do that. Um, the tricky part about this one though is like there's this brick In the foreground, though, it's like halfway through, and I can just go like that. And that one comes down like this. That was kind of what was tripping me up the other day when I drew this. That brick is like that, for good or for ill. And then there's like a brick. I think I'm gonna mess this up again. There's like a brick that goes right here, and then a brick that goes right there, or a line, or something. Okay. And that kind of goes down. It's like this. It's tricky, guys. This is real tricky. Okay. And this is like that. Oh yeah, and then there was uh-huh. There was this is all just like a crumbled mess over here. I don't know if I'm gonna get this, guys. And this is where you might need to fudge some things, you know? You just do it for the sake of the picture. No one cares about like, oh, did you make that perfectly accurate? No one cares. Cool if you did. Like, no one's going to shame you for that, but I don't think anybody's going to shame you for not understanding how this is supposed to be articulated. It's just kind of like a big crumbly mess over here. And you can see like how much I'm struggling with it and so on and so forth. I think I kind of got it though. It's just like bricks, there's bricks. Yeah, okay. And then there's like an outer line that's sort of you can see the faces for a while, but then it's just like they meet up almost completely straight up and down with that side. So you could, I guess you could take this, and it's all about just like drawing what you're seeing, okay? Like do it one little bit at a time, make a lot of observations. I think I erased this and redrew it like 3 times on the other one. So yeah, that's what you got. There you go. So here's our drawing. It's not all in the picture. Here, I can zoom out a lot. What? Okay, see? There it is. Hands for scale. I hope you enjoyed that. It's hard to draw hard things, guys. It just is. And if you haven't already, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be drawing a lot more. I'm going to be doing painting. I'm going to be doing videos about my travels. My fiance, Natalie, is also going to do drawings. She's very, very good at drawing, and she's really good at coming up with exercises to simplify the process, to ignite your creativity, to build confidence in yourself. She's excellent at that. So this is sayonara for now. Wait for part three in at least 2 days, one day. I don't know. Whenever I have time, we're gonna do the color pencil version of this. Okay. I'll see you next time. I'm Calvin. Thank you for stopping by Breaking Patterns. Peace out.